everybody, welcome back to my channel and also Facebook friends and Instagram friends, my social media friends. I'm Mabel Pun and I have my friend Judy Wong here today. This is Incredible Human Now and Then interview. As all the interviews I had before, I'm presenting some of the incredible people I know personally, and I've seen their struggle through the years because I know them very well, and I also have been with them, for some of them, assist them along the way. And this is a very good example of my good friend Judy here that have assist her in some of the directions she's been searching for in her life. And she finally found it lately, and then she just got a new book published last week.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. And then so I'm so happy to have her to be with me tonight for this interview. Know that this one, unlike the other ones that has been live before, this one is recorded because both of us are in jet lag right now. I just came back from Japan. She just came here for her seminar from Hong Kong, and we are in Toronto together right now. So it's kind of a fun encounter. We all like got this all up in the last minute, so prepare to have fun. Maybe we kind of start talking like drunks.
We haven't seen each other in what, like 2 years?
2 years, exactly.
So, yeah, this is like the catch up.
Exactly. So Incredible Human Now and Then, as usual, I'm presenting these friends as how they struggle through the struggle to become who they are or who they found they are. And as all the people we are, we all have our gifts, our talents, and our mission and our purposes. The difference between different lifestyles is the choices in between when you realize what you want to do, what you're supposed to do, and what not. So here I am with my incredible Judy Wong. Yay!
Thank you for having me. I'm really blessed that Mabel decided to go ahead with her channel and to also invite me as a guest. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it just so happened to coincide with the fact that my book has been released. So there's plenty to talk about now.
Oh yes! So tell us about something about you, like what have you been doing? What are you doing right now?
So now I'm currently an author and speaker and women's empowerment coach, and I've actually slowly adjusted from being a corporate executive into this new role, and it's been very interesting because the journey has taken like 5 years. Gosh, wow. I've known you for a while, right?
Yeah. I looked at the record. It all started in 2015.
Yeah,
she's been with me for a few years, and she's been great all along.
Yeah, so I think when I met you, I was having my first career break where all the signs were pointing to the fact that I needed something different in my life, yet I wasn't entirely ready to embrace that. And there were a lot of questions in my head as to what I needed to do next.
And honestly, at that time, I have no idea what you were doing. You came, I remember you came to one of my meditation class. And then what I remember the most remarkable thing is most people, because that class was particularly connecting people with their high beings, like guides and high self and all those stuff. And most people would see their high self, would see the spirit team leader, like different deities and beings, but you have the moon guy.
The concierge.
For marriage, it's like, this is something. And also Athena, something like that, right?
No, it was really interesting. It was your creative writing class. So
creative writing.
That's right. And I signed up for it expecting it to be creative writing, as in like I was going to write a story, which to some extent I suppose I still was, but it was absolutely mind-blowing because of the tools you're actually using and how deeply you were taking us back in terms of like a spiritual practice. And that's not what I was anticipating.
And thank you for allowing. That's the fun of it, of the spiritual world, is when you trust and you let go, and then remarkable things happen. I always say to all my students, like a facilitator is only as good as how much the recipient trusts you, right? Because for the same me, some people receive A, some people receive B, some people receive C. And for them, I am A to one, I'm B to another, I'm C to the other. So it's nothing to do with me. It's more to do with your trust and what you can take from me.
I think I was just in an ultra open and receptive state because, first of all, I was on holiday in Toronto. I wasn't working. I was quite lost spiritually in terms of finding my higher purpose. And so it was like, okay, whatever comes. But I wasn't expecting the results that we had at the end of that session. I remember there was some crying, there was a lot of stuff that went on.
Yeah, there was some fun stuff that happened.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't necessarily take the time to think about that aspect of their lives. Like they repress it, or they can't even acknowledge the fact that it exists.
Right. Yeah, it's like at that time, but now it's much better. Before it was very hard to get people to get to connect their spiritual side because it's so unusual for most of us. We were not taught and brought up with that aspect. But now it's like we're more readily, openly talk about spirituality because it's more in general, more awakened in the whole public, like in terms of the need to finding your purpose, the need to finding your mission, and what makes you happy and all those stuff. So it's just like so much easier to talk about spirituality openly. Like we're actually out in the open area. Yeah. People walk by and look at us, but
you hear a lot of people it's just we're in the lobby.
And nice doggy around us. So it's pretty fun here. Like we feel safe to do that now. But like talk about even 4 or 5 years ago, it's not the case. It's like we need to find a room to hide and then talk about it privately and try to be as objective as possible. But now we can be totally like into our feelings and all that and tell people about it honestly.
People are now more open to accepting that there might be other root causes to the circumstances in their life. Whereas in the past, it's like very superficial surface work.
Right.
And I'm not accusing, any type of practitioners of like not using the right tools. I'm just saying, at least for myself, over the last couple of years, we've definitely identified the fact that it goes on a much deeper level, and the work needs to be done internally. It's not.
So what works need to be done on your side?
Oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. I think first of all, it was just recognizing the fact that I wasn't happy in my current state, even though I had every reason to be happy, right? Like on the surface, I was married, I had a son, I had the so-called like perfect marriage because I was married to my high school sweetheart. There were so many reasons where other people would say, oh, you're so fortunate. And yet like deep inside, I felt imprisoned and I was very unhappy. And I think actually becoming a mother, as much as it's a blessing, it's also a bit of a learning curve, a very steep learning curve, because you're not given a child with a manual. Yes, there's lots of books about parenting, but you can never fully prep yourself for it. No. And I definitely realized that there were parts of my independence that I was giving up. And I think when I met you, that was exactly what I was feeling. Like I was taking the career break out of mother's guilt, like feeling that I need to spend time with my child while he's young. And yet, because of that, I had given up such a important part of myself, which was my corporate career. Like I was a high-level executive at the peak of my career. I was earning like well over 6 digits. And
6 digits, that's a good number.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was abroad, so I suppose you can factor in the fact that there are differences in living standards. But that aside, I mean, like I was living a very comfortable life, and yet I put that all aside. Right. Because I had certain feelings stirred up inside, which was primarily mother's guilt. And during that summer when I met you, I think that's when it really started to force me to look inward for the answers. And that's something that a lot of people don't do. They think the answers are external, but they're not.
I think like what you're doing it's what I found most incredible of you. It's easy for people to change when they go through suffering. But it's very hard for people who are already very comfortable, making 6 figures income, have what outside people consider a good family with a husband, with a child, and then you still decide to change. What made you have that feeling of need to change? What is the turning?
I think it was just a combination of all the different things that I was in a state of possessing, yet I didn't feel happy inside. So happiness is totally an inside job, right? So I mean, I had the career, I had the title, I had the family. There was really no reason on the surface to be unhappy with my life, and yet I was really unhappy. And I couldn't find the source of it. until I recognized the fact that all of these things were actually imposed on me. They weren't necessarily things that I really wanted for myself on a much deeper level. I was trying to fulfill, I think, like societal pressures, other people's expectations. And then the more you clear on a surface level, when you go a layer down and you realize, oh, there's more stuff to work on. And so in the last couple of years, that's what it's been. Like, it's all about identifying what the root cause is for anything that I'm considering not serving my highest good.
So basically, in a few years' time, you realized that you wasn't happy even though you have everything externally, but inside it was empty. And then you realize what causes you to be empty inside and not having that happiness. So now, come back to this moment. What do you realize for yourself that makes you happy now? What will you be happy about?
I think one of the things that's really exciting is the fact that I found my purpose, and to be able to share that purpose and to have friends that resonate and also understand where I'm coming from in terms of wanting to share that purpose is really important, because your peer group is ultimately going to lift you up or bring you down. I mean, some people say it's crabs in a bucket, right? Some people never want to see other people rise. And unfortunately, a lot of society is like that, which is why I think it's really important to surround yourself with friends that have like a common understanding of, let's say, spirituality, friends that understand whatever values it is that you hold very dear, because those are the things that are going to drive you and push you forward. So, for example, for me, before I published my book, it was a dream for so many years. So in the last year, I've had like so many different breakthroughs. Obviously, we've done some spiritual work, and I've worked with some of my other coaches as well. And I basically identified the fact that I spent the past decade and a half on a career that I never really wanted to be in. And that was very significant, because if you think about it, like, in Canada, you work, 40 hours a week? So in Hong Kong, you work like maybe 55 to 65, right?
Easily, yes.
And like, that's where you spend all
work
of your
is your
time.
life.
And I realized, like, I didn't care for the business card as much as people thought I should. I never cared what people thought in terms of where I live and how I live. And yeah, there were certain values about living in Hong Kong that didn't necessarily resonate with me until I realized that I had to be at peace with myself. And having published the book, I feel like I have fulfilled something that I always wanted to do since I was in high school. So I think that's one of the captions I put on my own Facebook post when I actually published the book and shared with all my friends. And I had lots of friends from high school that were congratulating me, because they realized, like, yes, that's right, we remember her as doing X, Y, and Z. She liked the yearbook. She liked doing editorial stuff. This is up her alley.
So what I heard from what you said, I found a few keywords. See if I'm right, if I got it right. So number one is purpose. Number two is support from who shares same kind of purpose or level of spirituality, or at least understand the support. And then peace, right? And then also you put it into actions, that you do something, like you're writing a book, or you publish a book, or you do something else. So it's the action, the peace, the support, and the, what was the first one? Purpose that put them all together for you right now.
Yeah, so I think for me, I work backwards. I don't know if it's always the case for people, but for me, like, taking action has never really been necessarily the hard thing to do, because being in corporate, being in a leadership role, that's always just been an expectation, right? You have to drive things. So I never lacked drive. The problem was all I had was drive, and I didn't necessarily know what I was doing it for. And a lot of people that I come into contact with, they'll say, well, you know, you're a mom, you're a parent, so you're doing it for your kids. And it's not that I disagree with this comment. I just feel that we all have our own life purpose to fulfill. We're not here to only be a parent. That's one of our identities, right? But we could be somebody's mother, somebody's sister, somebody's wife, right? These are all roles that we play, but that's not who we are. at the core of our being. And for me, that was the big one, because motherhood really dug up a lot of junk for me. Like, it made me reflect on my entire life, my choices, and question what I had done in the past, what I was currently doing, and where I saw myself in the future. And when you think about where you'll be in the future, well, there's going to be the you that continues on the path that you're currently going, and if you don't like that, you got to change your trajectory, right?
Right.
And it's like anything else, even if you're like paddling a boat, not that I'm any good at rowing, but like if you're going to change your trajectory, it takes extra effort.
Yes, yes.
So the last couple of years for me has been all about that extra effort.
Right.
And
changing course.
yeah, and it is painful. It's like up and down, right? It's like, oh, I leave corporate, I go back to corporate, oh, I'm going to try and leave again, and then back again, and like it's a bit of a roller coaster, but
is it worth it?
Totally, because it's the self-discovery and the inner journey that nobody can do it for you, and
nobody can do it for you.
It's like irreplaceable, right? That's an experience all into yourself. And so, yeah, that's basically been like the last couple of years summed up in a nutshell.
So how do you feel about your life in general right now?
Oh, totally at peace. So happy. Like, I mean, I'm here in Toronto for a week, and then I'm going to LA, and the purpose is multi-purposed, but partially to promote my book, to work on my business, and to network with a lot of people around the globe. But the most exciting part is I feel no guilt for leaving my child in Hong Kong. Whereas, like, maybe it's an age thing, but when he was younger, even if I left him for 3 days, I would guilt myself. And again, it's like, what do you tell yourself? How do you treat yourself? Because I recognize that for every negative thing that I was saying to myself, I was hurting who I was. And I think as women, we're so good at self-criticism.
Self-criticism is the biggest thing for women.
We're really good at it. It's like,
yes, really good at
you wake up and you look at the mirror, and it's like, oh, God,
from the eyebrow to the face to the eyelashes to the little dots, everything.
Right?
Yep.
Like and it takes all that extra effort to look in the mirror and stare yourself in the eye and like love yourself more.
Yes.
Because the natural thing to do as you age is to look in the mirror and be like, oh, I'm not as pretty as I used to be, right? Or like my boobs aren't as perky or whatever, right? Like there's all these reasons to say bad things to yourself and about yourself. But nobody can ever rescue you from that mindset. It's like how you choose to have that self-dialogue.
And then also do some actions that bring you what you want to see, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes like you have the best dialogue inside of yourself, but if you sit there and do nothing, your boobs will still hang down.
That push-up is really important.
Yeah, and walking and all those stuff, like exercise. I mean, like be realistic and be fair to yourself, that we do not overestimate or underestimate either ourselves of ability and actions and thinking at the same time. Like we can have the right thinking, but we also need to put it into the corresponding actions to put into alignment.
Yeah.
Right? That's how I see it too. So women, if you have criticism on your face, it's okay. Right? Accept that as a portal of change. That means your face is telling you it's time for you to criticize me, or you can take actions to change me and then become what you want to see again, right? Sometimes I see it as my face talking to myself. And then I'll go for facial, change my diet and see what comes out, and just have fun, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we find changes, it's like a burden because we expect changes, we expect results. But if you see changes as another experience, and just have fun with it, just see what happens, then it changed the whole thing.
Yeah, I feel like my personality has taken a turn for the best in the last couple of years, which is, I used to be, well, like most people, a creature of habit. But on top of being a creature of habit, I was also very shy and afraid of change, like almost to the point where it would be like, what's the point? I would tell myself, what's the point? Why bother? Like, I don't see why there's a need to do anything differently. Whereas now, everything is fun
Yes.
So I think everybody holds a different mentality when it comes to facing challenges. Like
Right.
some people depend on their willpower to like really get through. Like I have some friends that do Spartan race, for example, right? It's like, oh, they have sheer determination and like muscle power, right? Like I mean, sure, that's not really like my core value, but like for me, it's like, oh, it's got to be fun. As long as I'm having fun, I'll try it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's been a few things that really I thought like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. Like I did the what do you call that thing? When you're sliding on the metal rope on the hang gliding.
Hang gliding.
I went hang gliding.
shoot.
Yeah, but I went hang gliding in the Philippines between mountaintops. So it's basically
With
like,
no safety lines and stuff?
well, no, there was,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, it's a dead drop into a canyon
Oh,
and a creek,
that's
right?
fun.
And I remember making my video. I was like screaming into the camera, like, "Oh my God, son, I love you," you know? Like, and I thought there's a part of me where I could hear my mother's voice, "Judy, you're so reckless," you know, like something like that. But there was a part of me was like, "No, this is so fun," and I really needed
This is
that.
so fun,
Yeah, because I realized for me specifically, like my childhood was all about being really serious, being really focused, being like very excellent at my academic work, and it was like no fun.
No fun.
It was
I know,
just like
we
no
came from
fun.
the same kind of background.
I think being Asian, a lot of you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes,
It's like-
yes. And I had the same thing when I first zip lining. In my first zip lining, it was like all geared up, but it's like, oh, this is so high, and then it's like nothing under my bottom. It's like you just fly over the trees. It's like, but when you're in it, you're like, oh, this is the best of the world. Keep going. I want to keep.
Right.
You know, at the end of the zip lining, I actually asked the coach, what is the requirement to be like a coach? Like when I retire, I want to come back here and do your job. And she was like stunned. And then there's like, there's no age limit. I was like, true. Why do I believe that should be a limit on fun stuff? If it is truly fun, it should be no limit. As long as you believe you can do it, you take the course, you take the necessary training, and you're physically fit for that, then there's no limit. It's like all the limits are in our heads.
Oh, totally.
We
yeah.
think we shouldn't do this. We think we're not capable of doing this. We think we blah 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 blah, and so we never end up doing this. Of course, you've never done it, and then you never do it because you believe you cannot.
Yeah, and that's so important. That's key.
Yeah.
Like I think like working with the right coaches and mentors, spiritual healers, those are the people that help you identify where you're stuck, because sometimes you don't even know it. And I just watched Men in Black on the plane on my way back, so I remember very vividly there was one point where Agent M said to Agent H, which is the guy that I think plays Thor as well. The guy that plays Thor is also in that Men in Black. Anyways, she says to him like, "So tell me, how did you defeat so and so, some alien group?" And he kept repeating the same line. But he never caught on to the fact that he was repeating the same line. And she's like, "No, but tell me how." And he would say it again and again. And then eventually she called him out on it. She's like, "Haven't you noticed? That's all you can tell me. They actually flashed you with that flashlight thing. They like erased your memory." And he finally like realized, oh my God, yeah. Like I am repeating myself. And that's how we are. We like loop.
Repeating ourselves.
We loop
yes.
and loop and loop back to a certain like set of behaviors or like certain patterns, and sometimes it might be different people but the same pattern, and we don't recognize it.
And habits.
And habits, yeah. And we need like somebody who is objective but knows us well enough that we can trust to read that and to tell us and
Represent it back to
right.
you. Yeah.
And we have to be in a place of like open receptivity.
Yes.
Otherwise, like there's gonna be no change.
Yeah, so coaching is very important to folks, and we have a nice coach here. So, what about like your biggest challenge in the past 3 years? What would you identify as your biggest so far? You did mention your parents, though.
There's a few. There's like kind of three big ones that
Okay.
I see. Okay, so I would say the first one was my divorce. I actually recognized that I was growing in a direction that wasn't compatible with the person who had been my partner for so long. Because, like I said, I married my high school sweetheart, and that was a big revelation, and it was really hard. Like literally, like cutting the cord, as we say energetically, right? But it was a really tough one, and it was a very conscious decision on my part. But it took a long time for me to stick it through and agree to it, because I would come up with a lot of excuses about the fact that I had a son. And I didn't want him to caught in the process would be hurt. And then that in tandem tied into my own childhood because my parents were divorced. And so that in itself had like my mind in like a jumble of like Scrabble letters, right? There was just so much stuff going on. That took a while to work through. And then the other one was in my career, the last job that I had, like I just wasn't gelling with that boss. And I've never had a manager that I didn't necessarily get along with. I'd like to think that I'm a pleasant person, that I have decent communication skills and my personality is nice, right? But nothing was working. And then I realized like that person was just reflecting back to me the fact that I didn't want to be there and I didn't belong there. And so he was just pointing out the fact that it was something old. It was like an old paradigm. And I don't know if any of you will understand what I'm saying. And maybe if you read my book, it's an ebook on Kindle, The Softer Side of the Corner Office. But one of the things that I introduce in my book is the fact that there's like a shifting world paradigm. So like in corporate, it's like a men's world. It's a male-driven boys club type of organization. And I feel like entrepreneurship, spirituality, all of these other things that I'm now currently heavily immersed in, these are softer feminine energy type of modalities. Right. And so when I was in my last job, it was just like a complete clash of those two different energies and trying to find that delicate balance. And I realized like I had moved beyond that masculine phase of my life, like the sheer go, 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 have will, and like execute, because that's what happens in Hong Kong, right? Like you wake up, you almost don't have to think, and it's like, I'm gonna get ready, I'm gonna go to work. When you get to work, it's like bam, 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 you churn it out, you get home, you're tired, you go to bed, right? And you have whatever little things in between, like your meals and then taking care of your kid, but it's like you're on autopilot, and then you just keep doing it, and it doesn't get you anywhere. And I realized that actually I was completely ignoring my feminine side. Right. It got to a point in my career where, or sorry, not in my career, in my marriage, where my career was getting in the way, and my ex-husband actually said to me, he's like, you can do it all, right? You got it all covered, so you don't really need me. And then I realized, like, that's not necessarily where I wanted any relationship to be, not with just that person, but it was like, do I want to have a partner who identifies with the fact that I can do it all and they're completely like out of the picture.
It's like he's trying to withdraw himself from it.
Yeah, and I recognize now, like after the fact, it's like, oh, that's interesting, because yeah, like men need to be given an opportunity to be a man, right?
Yes.
And a woman, not to say that like I'm not the type that's gonna pass slippers and cook meals anyways. I'm terrible in the kitchen, but it's like women need to also be in their femininity.
Yes.
And that's also something that everyone needs to identify for themselves, because like we're all different human beings, we have different chemistries, and so like our balance of energies are different.
So as you said, like women need to be okay with ourselves being women, and we also need to be okay for men to be the men, right? Sometimes as women we over mothering, so the men cannot become the men, they don't take responsibilities, we take them up, and then we resent it. So what's the point, right? And sometimes if we like do not allow ourselves to be women, we overdone it, and then we tired ourselves, and then we resent it even more. That's again, what's the point? Let men be the men, let women be the women, and we know we all have different lives. We all have multiple lives. We have been men and women before, so it's really no point of fighting who's stronger, who's less, who is whatever. It's just different experience. When we can see past that, we've been all the different roles, we're just trying different roles again, then let that role be the role.
Yeah, and I think that took me a while to understand. It was almost like a power struggle dynamic at home and at work, because both times like there was a male that was trying to be dominating or domineering, and I felt like that went against the whole girl power, you know? But then I think now that I've made a transition to better things for myself, I've actually recognized that those things were there to serve me.
Yes.
For me to actually identify what works best for me. And maybe it helped me grow through one phase of my life, let's say my 20s, both career-wise and marriage-wise. But now that I'm stepping into a more mature part of my life, I feel like using knee pads. Yes, using knee pads in advance.
Acknowledging your needs.
Yes, acknowledging my needs and some of my physical limitations. I feel like it's also self-love. But yeah, it's been such an interesting journey that I'm really looking forward to like the things that await me. Right?
So you mentioned before that you find that there's an imbalance in office setting, corporating setting. So just role play a little bit. For example, if you're coaching, like say a CEO of a company, and you want to through the coaching, and it's also the wish of that CEO that want to find more balance in the corporate that he's looking after. What would you suggest this CEO to put back into the corporate setting to bring back that balance?
I think my first question would be for them to describe in their own words what they think is the current situation and what is their so-called problem. Because especially in an organizational environment, it always comes down to leadership and vision and whether the people that are working for you understand where you're coming from. And only when you've identified where there's a disconnect can you fix the problem. And I think in general, the people that I've been working with, women and men lead somewhat differently. And it's not to say that, you know, one is better than the other. It's just a matter of how you tailor make your style for the people that work for you. Right. And to give you like maximum results, right? Like at the end of the day, any organization is trying to be profitable. So it's like, how can you remain profitable and true to yourself in your leadership style, and also win the hearts of the people that work for you, right? Because that's what keeps the ship running at the end of the day. Unless you work by yourself, you have other people that work for you, and you need them to be on board. So
right. So it's like how to take care of everybody and everything into consideration, and find a balance in between.
Yeah, and like I feel like men are used to like I'm the hunter. So what I do, what I say goes, and this is how you should do it. And then women are like the nurturing, and they take into account that this is like everybody's voice. This is what everybody else thinks. And yeah, they're just different styles. And I think it's going to be an interesting decade ahead of us, because in my book I also mentioned the fact that there are more and more women graduating from college now, right? So that means more women who are educated, more women stepping into a corporate environment, and men will probably start to feel the difference in the cultural shift in that type of environment.
Right. So yeah, cultural is a big thing too. Like, how do you manage in between, you know, being a Canadian, being in Hong Kong, like you're Chinese? Now you probably have to start to learn some Mandarin as well. So how do you manage in between all of these cultural differences?
I think in the beginning I was in sheer denial, and that's when I had the toughest time. I had the toughest time in the beginning because I almost refused to fit in. I think I enjoyed being distinctively Canadian, and I clung to that identity. And then over time I've realized, well, first of all, I call the city of Hong Kong home. So if that's my home, I can't turn a blind eye to things that are going on. I need to immerse myself in some of the local culture, be it from like what I eat for breakfast to how I interact and socialize with people, because for the longest time I thought people were just really rude. I was like, okay, these people never like really greet you, they don't smile, and like they don't really want to talk at work, like they're kind of snobby, like that was my impression. And then I realized, well, that's part of what I'm seeing only because that's what I choose to see. But more importantly, it's like, okay, but what am I doing to bridge that gap? And then having spent some time working for Mandarin speaking institution, like PRC co-workers, I can definitely say that like we're all human beings.
Yes, we are human beings.
We are all human beings. The question is, do you make the effort to connect people? And if you can connect on the human level, then a lot of the differences are much easier to manage. I think for a lot of people, the difficulty is when they don't want to see that other person in that light. Like if you're always going to choose to only see differences, then that's all you'll see. You'll only see differences, right? So yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I find that we need to embrace the differences to the point that we resolve it. So if you're rejecting your own origin and cultural background, you never resolve all those tension in between cultures, because you're holding it in yourself.
It's like sometimes I realize like I need to show them the same kind of respect and understanding as they show me. Like, for example, they know that I'm Canadian born and raised, so they're never going to expect the same level of language proficiency from me in Mandarin. Like, of course, I can converse, no problem, right? But like, if I was to write a letter or to write a report, nobody would have expected that I can do it the same way as them. Just like when they write an email in English, it's not like I'm going to go pick on their grammar and pick on their S's and, you know,
Right.
there's no point. It doesn't prove your superiority. In fact, I think it just makes you a bit of a pain in the ass. Yes, factually, yes, of course you should correct certain things, but there's a fine line.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Like, yeah, be more a little bit social sensible, right?
Yep.
So you did mention that your challenges was allowing yourself being the woman that you're a woman, and be the mother that have no guilt, and also like finding balance in your working setting and all those stuff. So how did you, in the past few years, get you to through the struggles? Like what if somebody is struggling through, I guess a lot of people are struggling through the same thing. So you're a coach now. What would you suggest that you have used as a tool to help you, that have helped you cope, and now you can use it and suggest people to help them cope?
I think first of all, it depends on what your starting point is. Like for myself, it was very spiritual. It was very much an inward thing before I worked on the outward stuff. For some people, it might be the reverse. So for me, I worked with you as a healer to really like comb through a lot of the energy work. And you met me when I think everything was just somewhat chaotic. And I think when people say that when the student is ready, the teacher will come, that is very true, because I met you like just randomly, like we didn't know each other at all, right? Like I signed up for some class and then, oh, okay, and then it all worked out.
And then you appeared.
Yeah, and then it all worked out, and we're like having this conversation now, right? But I think first you have to ask yourself, like, are you ready for change? Are you ready for help? Because you won't even recognize that the people around you might be able to help you. And then it depends on like what type of help you're going to look for. So I have you as my spiritual coach and spiritual healer, and then I have business coaches. I have
Remarkable people.
yeah,
yes.
I have like a lot of people that I invest in terms of developing who I am as a person, and that's something I think everybody needs to ask themselves, like, how much am I willing to invest in me? Because people get so caught up in like the external investment vehicles, and I'm not saying that money is a bad thing, right? But like, it's not just about investing in these external vehicles, it's investing in yourself.
In yourself, yes. Yeah, that's like ourselves is the most important thing to do, invest in. And you did give out a very important point that because there's no one tool that is one size fits all, right? There's always like need some tailoring and customization. So coaching comes into place. That helps individual to find their individual needs and point out their individual issues, challenges, and the strategies that can help render that. And so that coach come along, and you have more than one coach. I know you have like business coach. You just said you have different people that you help you, encourage you, push you, and kick your butts.
Yeah, oh my gosh, like totally holding me accountable. Like that's the one key thing I realized. If it's between like, I don't drive, but if it's between getting new rims on my car or like getting new neon lights for my car versus like investing in a session or two with a coach, I would definitely choose the latter. Like I feel like some of these other things that we do to bring us temporary short-term happiness is exactly that. It's just like a sugar pill, right? It's a placebo. Like you think it's going to make you feel better, but is it really? Like, does it really work? Versus when you invest in your own development, it's permanent if you allow it to be, if you continue to work on yourself.
Right, and I think this all makes sense because like think about we have schooling, education for building up our mental system, our understanding of the society, and to find at least one profession that can sustain us through all these years of schooling, from kindergarten all the way to university, or even like doctorate, like afterwards. That takes a lot of time, and that takes a lot of studying, and takes a lot of money investment on ourselves for just a few aspects of our lives. If you want changes for your whole life, it's supposed to be in proportion that you invest in yourself in terms of time, studying, effort, and money, and help to help you along the way to reestablish your life. Right? I think it's like people nowadays are looking at spirituality sometimes too easily, thinking that as someone put a hand over your head and fix your life all of a sudden magically. It doesn't happen that way. No, it doesn't happen that way.
I mean, like you, right? I also had my yoga teacher's training, and when I did slightly teach for a short duration, people used to think like, oh, I'm not flexible, or like, yeah, I don't aspire to put my leg over my head. That's not the purpose of the practice. If you only took the time to explore a little further, you would understand that's not the purpose of the practice. And I feel like it's the same thing with coaching or any other thing. Like when you're learning a new sport, a new skill, like playing the piano or something, a new instrument, it's always going to be messy at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
Tell me about
like,
it.
you have like a couple of boys at home, so like if they all started learning a new instrument at the same time, you'd have a whole orchestra going.
Killing chicken night every day.
Killing chicken. That's a
Chinese, yeah, the Chinese race.
Just
yeah.
imagine what that would sound like.
Yeah, exactly. So if like right now, what is your current vision of yourself?
The current vision of myself. Let's just say that I am stepping into a 2.0 version of myself.
2.0.
Which means...
I think you're more than that. 2.0, you're a little...
Okay, 2.5.
Too humble.
2.5. I think I've just taken everything that was stored very deeply within me and revealing it again to myself and not being afraid to share it with others.
Sharing is very important.
Yeah, because I think that's key, right? Like first you do the work to find it for yourself, and once you've identified it, then the next logical step is not to be selfish and just hold it to yourself, right? It's to share. It's like why do people who are in choirs seem to be so amazing when they're singing in the choir, right? Because they're singing out of praise, right?
Singing it out.
It's like the spirit is flowing through them, and they're sharing it with everybody, in the pulpits, in the church, or wherever. And I feel like for each of us, like we've discussed over dinner, we all have gifts, and it's our duty while we're here, however long we're here, once we know what those gifts are, to share those gifts with other people. And like, oh, it's so refreshing when you figure all that out. But before you figure it out, it's like, what a shit show. It's a bit of a shit show.
But when you get to a point that you're going to share, don't hesitate. Yeah, because this is like, it's also, I find sharing, it's another layer of learning. When you share, it's not just what you know. You start to integrate and try to also integrate it with other people's needs. So it's another layer of exploration of that same knowledge that you have acquired. It's a step up, because now you're not just doing it on you, right? Say you use the glasses. Right, you only need to find a prescription that works for you, right? But if you are being the person who prescribed the glasses, right, share your knowledge of putting on glasses, then you need to find, okay, different frame for different people, different thickness for different lenses for different eyes, and then different needs and different degree of whatever that they need to match, and this is a whole new world when you start to share and teach.
Yes, and everything's a lot clearer now.
And you know so much more.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a reward on its own. Sharing isn't, like, you don't share from a place of seeking reward. You share from a place of wanting to be of service.
Yes.
And that was something I definitely didn't recognize when I was working as a corporate executive. I felt like, I service the people I am supposed to service in the office. and I get paid for doing it. But that's not the kind of service that I'm referring to. I think like we both understand that there's
intention is different.
Yeah, the intention is different, and there's a much greater contribution that we're making to society as a whole and the whole shifting of the earth. Whether or not people actually understand what we're talking about, that's
Okay, so one last question. If anyone that is watching this video today that have the same similar struggle as yours, what advice would you want to give them besides all the things we talked about? Anything that is like a kick?
Don't hesitate and trust your inner voice. I think it's really, really important to acknowledge that that person inside you truly does exist, because you all know what I'm talking about. It's like the same voice that tries to wake you up in the morning when like you really don't want to get up for work. There's a voice that's like, get up, you gotta get up. It's like the same inner voice that you hear,
yes.
that's pushing you forward and onwards. But if you choose to ignore it, I think like the negativity or like the circumstances in your life that you find unfavorable are only going to feel like it's magnified, because it's trying to show you that you're supposed to do a U-turn or like turn left or turn right. Whatever your path is, your higher being is trying to guide you there. And I'm really glad that we kind of worked on me so many years ago to start acknowledging that, because
my honor to see you flourish.
So
And you're
grateful.
flourishing. So, Han, I give you 5 minutes free flow to advertise your books, your events, or classes, or whatever you want to offer and share. Go ahead.
Thank you. So everybody, if you log on to Amazon and you search under Kindle ebooks, under the education section, there is a book called The Softer Side of the Corner Office, which was published about 2 weeks ago. It's now going for $30 US, and it's a pretty short read, but I would say that the content is very concise, and it applies to anybody who works in any kind of organizational environment, because the content of the book is really about what I've learned in nearly 15 years of being in a very fast-paced environment, doing things that I found very challenging. And most importantly, I think these are leadership skills that all of us can apply and step up, because the key to living a better life is embracing your inner leader. And I think that's one of the things that I've definitely learned along the way, right? And I think you as well. And yeah, it's such a nice feeling to recognize it in yourself.
Yes, you're never alone. You always have all the support inside of you and also surrounding you.
Yes.
So if people want to find you, how can they find you?
Oh,
On your
okay.
social media?
My Facebook page is Judy WY Wong. That's also my Facebook account. If you want to friend me, drop me a message. And Career Elevators, career-elevators.com is where I'll soon be offering modules in terms of what people can do to step into the next phase of their careers. So if that interests you, please check it out.
So as usual, I will put all this information on the posting lines along with this video, so you can copy and paste or click to find her easily. And you also do coaching. Do you do online? Because you're in
Yes.
Hong Kong, right?
Yes, so I am connecting with a lot of people globally. I don't restrict myself to one geographical location. We have like Skype and Zoom now, so it makes everything easy. I mean, that's how we do it.
Yeah, that's
right?
how we
I haven't seen you in
correspond
2
on-
years. So,
Exactly.
and it
And
works.
we're fine.
It worked.
Energy is energy. It has no limit.
Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Mabel.
flying all over here to meet me in person. I really love to see you. I have so much more to talk to you after the camera.
See you guys.
All right.
Bye.
So bye, folks. And until we meet again, we have the next interviewee lining up for the next month. So stay tuned, and I'll have it posted as usual on Facebook, Instagram, and this video will also go on YouTube if you want to find it back. And you find it lost in my Facebook page, you can also refer it back to my YouTube channel, which is Mabel Pun, Mabel space Pun. And remember to punch that searching little magnifying glass so my face will pop out and you can find my channel. I have all other interviews lined up over my Facebook channel, and also other meditation and different tools, yoga video, my traveling video that you can find a lot of fun with. Okay, so see you in all those videos or the next interview. And before that, please make use of this video to find out tools and connections that works for you and that you can magnify your purpose and also live happily from that purpose. All right, be well, everybody. Love you all. See you next time.